Welcome to all. Welcome to panelists. Aditi, please start.
Hi, good evening all. I am Aditi. I'm the President-elect for East Ahmedabad chapter. And I welcome you all for a webinar on air conditioning of operation theatres for contamination control by Mr. Gautam Baliga. Most of us, I'm sure, already knows Mr. Baliga and have had the opportunity to hear him a lot of times. But still, thank you, Ishrey, for giving me this opportunity to introduce him. Mr. Baliga is a graduate mechanical engineer from IIT Kharagpur. And he's currently the director of Opal HVAC Engineers Private Limited, Mumbai, a company which specializes in HVAC systems for healthcare, pharmaceutical, and industrial HVAC systems. He is also a partner at RS Kulkarni HVACR Engineers, Pune. Mr. Baliga is also a chair for Healthcare Technical Group, which is tasked to bring out healthcare guidelines for HVAC for healthcare spaces this year. He is also on the panel for Ishrey DL and lectures and topics related for HVAC and clean rooms and healthcare. Today, he is going to be talking about the engineering solutions that we can design for healthcare facilities. Mr. Baliga, all over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditi, for that introduction. I can share my screen now?
Yes, sir. So meanwhile, I would also like to thank Luby Pumps for their support this year. So Luby Pumps Physics Society, your partner for East Ahmedabad chapter. Thank you. Sir, you can continue now.
I'm also audible, right?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Great, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to you. It is a pleasure for me to address this webinar. My topic is air conditioning of operation theaters for contamination control. Microbial contamination of operation theaters is a major cause of nosocomial infections. It is considered to be a risk factor for surgical site infection, which is SSI. SSI delays wound healing, prolongs hospitalizations, increases morbidity and the overall cost of an operation and hospital stay. At times, it can be fatal. The air conditioning system has to ensure that microbes in the airstream do not reach the surgical site. For this reason, the HVACR engineer can do a lot to ensure the well-being of the patient while that patient is in the operation theater. With this background, let us start the presentation. So these are the topics I'll be covering, that is infection issues, engineered solutions, and maintenance. All are related. Infection issues with operation theaters. These are the findings of International Nosocomial Infection Control Consortium. What is nosocomial? It is the disease that is acquired because of stay in the hospital. It is a disease the patient didn't have in the first place. You get admitted for one disease and come out with another malady. That is called nosocomial. So surgical site infection rates in 6 cities of India was investigated. So these were the hospitals that took part in this statistics that was generated. You can see Amrita Institute, Fortis Hospital, all big names. So 10 participating hospitals were there and 28,340 procedures from 2005 to 2011. After that, such a comprehensive study was not there. So this is what the result was. You can see that depending on the type of operation, the percentage of patients who acquire infection increases from hip prosthesis, which is at 2.1%, right up to, let's say, your cardiac surgery. Just a moment. Cardiac surgery 6.5%, breast surgery is 8.3%. And the overall average is 4.2%. It's given here. It's 4.2%. That's quite a bit. So this is the statistic among the better hospitals in the country. So what happens in other hospitals, whether it is civic or small nursing homes, it's only a matter of conjecture. It can't be far better than this. That's what I would think. Now we come to something which is much more specific in terms of the infections that happen for certain procedures. These are given in terms of infections per 1,000 device days. You'll understand what I mean. So if you see this, we are talking of, the magnitude of the, some 4 type of procedures which are pretty common. One is called the VAP, that is ventilator associated pneumonia. Then central line associated bloodstream infection, CLABSI. Then catheter associated urinary tract infection. Then rates are expressed as infections per 1,000 device days. So now if you see the next slide, yeah, you can see that, the ventilator associated pneumonia, we are talking of 0.9, CLABSI is 0.8, and catheter associated urinary tract is 1.7 for USA. The same figures for developing countries is 13.1, 4.1, and 5.1. For India, it is 19.8, 6.6, which is worse compared to most other developing countries, a cause for concern. Now, what it is in terms of rupees and a spice, you just try to figure out. Antibiotics for an adult is 18,000 per day for 7 to 14 days. So that much into 18,000. At the cost of stay in ICU, 30,000 to 1 lakh per day. So you can imagine what is the cost of nosocomial infection for just these 4 procedures. It is phenomenal. So we now come to the contamination pathways, which tries to examine how the contamination takes place. See, contamination has to be generated from a source. Then there is a transport mechanism to reach the susceptible site. Then there is contact with the susceptible site, and then there is retention at the susceptible site. So the idea of trying to do something with contamination control deals with breaking this pathway at some point or the other, so that the retention at the susceptible site does not take place. That's the whole idea. So which are the routes for surgical infection? If you see this, we are talking about how infection takes place and how to break the chain of incidents that lead to the infection. That's what I talked about. The infection can come from this adjoining area. It can come from the dirty floor. It can come from the operating personnel. It can come from the surgical instruments. And surprisingly, the patient's skin also, the adjoining skin, that also can be responsible for the contamination. How do you break it? How do you break the path is in terms of, you've got the clothing, the masks, the gloves, watertight clothing, and then, the instruments, how you're going to handle it, and then your wound drapes. These are the methods by which we try to, break the path so that the infection does not take place. And we are very concerned about, as HVAC engineers, about this operating room air. How is it that it is going to contribute in terms of, aiding the infection or, discouraging the infection, so that the pathogens that are generated don't get into the wounds. So now we come to a concept which is called the infection equation. So what is the infection equation? Yeah. This is something that engineers mostly relate to. So infection equation says that it explains what is the chance of infection in a given scenario. So you've got infectivity, that is one concept you need to clear. Infectivity is the ability of the organism to enter, survive, and multiply in a host. Infectiousness indicates ease with which the disease is transmitted to other hosts. Some diseases, as we know, go from one place to another very easily, some not so easily. Infection occurs when there is an infectious agent in a source, a susceptible host, and most critically, a way for the agent to be transmitted from the source to the host. And this is the infection equation. Infection is equal to dose into site into virulence into time divided by level of host defense. So what do all these terms mean? What is the dose? Dose is the quantity of pathogens being transferred. So more the pathogens transfer, the chance of infection is more. Then virulence, next is site. Location of the surgical wound, the very vulnerable sites could be the heart, lungs, kidney, liver, if that is where the operation is taking place, or the less vulnerable would be legs, hands, and things like that, limbs. Virulence is some pathogens, as I said, are extremely virulent, such as MRSA, and then there are some which are not really benign, but less virulent. And then the time, that is how long the exposure is taking place. A short operation is likely to result in less infection because the exposure is so much lower. But a long operation can, facilitate more chance of getting an infection. Then divided by the level of host defense. So host defense is a huge factor. The less the defense mechanism of the patient, the more the chance of the infection. In some cases, the patient has to have some defense system artificially low so that transplant medication can be accepted, or else the body will reject the transplant or the medication. So the patient is artificially made to be of very low defense. So these type of operations become very susceptible for infection. So now we come to one concept that is not concept, something that you ought to know, that is CFU counts in operation theaters, that is colony forming units. So during surgery, theaters have counts of 50 to 100 CFU per cubic meter in a well-maintained operation theater, 150 to 200 CFUs per cubic meter for average conditions, and 400 to 500 for theaters without any air systems. And minimal standard has been suggested in UVC, that is ultra clean ventilation, that the average count at the wound should not exceed 10 CFU per cubic meter. So this is something that you can make note of. Next is your microorganisms that get deposited on surfaces for various classes of areas. This doesn't seem to move well. It is skipping. Just 1 minute. Let me try. Okay. I think one slide is not coming up. It doesn't matter. Microorganisms deposited on surfaces, viable and non-viable microorganisms get deposited on surfaces. Any horizontal surface, particles of various sizes will start depositing after a time. Over a time, more particles get deposited. Some are viable and some are non-viable microorganisms. A clean surface quickly gets contaminated if the air is contaminated. So this is simple to understand. So if your air is quite contaminated, it has got a lot of dust, it is obvious that after some time that surface also will become quite dusty. And thoroughly cleaning the surfaces reduces contamination in the air. Means this is the reverse thing we are talking of. That there is contamination on the floor, it gets carried into the air. But just cleaning the surfaces by itself is not good enough unless you're simultaneously also not removing the particles from the air. This is something you can understand this concept. Sources of contamination during surgery. Hands, mouth, nose, open wounds, hair, others, these are all involved. Billions of bacteria on the hair. You can see how this surgeon is carrying out the operation. And let us see that hair is, exposed. And if the laminar flow is carrying the dandruff in the hair, it will go into the wound, quite possibly. Then on the hand also it is there. So these are the sources from which microbial contamination can come during the surgery. Now we have another thing called squams in the operation theater. Clinical trials have confirmed that 80% to 90% of bacterial contaminants found in the wound after surgery come from CFU present in the air of the operating theater. So if you're finding that there are pathogens inside the wound, the mystery is not there. It has all come from the air. So 80% to 90% of the clinical trials show that they are come from the operation theater itself. Squams are basically skin flakes. Are primary source of transmission of bacteria transmitted to surgical site through air. Approximately, this is mind-boggling figure, 1.15 into 10 power of 6 to 0.9 to the 10 power of 8 squams are generated in a typical 2 to 4 hour surgical procedure. Viral and fungal contamination can be present in these skin flakes. Staphylococcus aureus, it is a fungal infection, is commonly found on the skin of many people. And this automatically, if it is not, if there is no proper covering of those healthcare workers, it can find its way into the wound. Now we talk of correlation between the particles and microorganisms in air. So this study is out of a research that is done by NASA, which tells us the stochastic chance, it's something like probability. If we have so many non-viable particles, how many viable particles are likely to be there? Because why do we talk of such things? Because it is easy. Just one moment. I'm doing a lecture. Can I give you a call later? Yeah. So basically it is easier to measure real time how many particles are there, but it's not so easy in real time to know how much microorganisms are there. So that's why this kind of a relationship is very useful to know. So you measure the particle counts and you know that what density of microorganisms are likely to be there. So as per this study, 1 in 1,000 particles with sizes greater than 0.5 millimeter, it is not millimeter, greater than micrometer, in clean zones 5 ISO, that is your class 100, about 3.5 microorganisms per meter cube you can expect. 1 in 40,000 particles with sizes greater than 0.5 micrometer in clean room zones of 8 ISO, that is your class 1 lakh. So 88 microorganisms per meter cube of air. That means in ISO 8, you would expect 88 microorganisms per cubic meter of air, whereas in ISO 5, that is your class 100, it would be 3.5 microorganisms per cubic meter of air, which is a significantly lower chance of microorganism being in the air. For non-classified areas, that is areas where you are not classifying whether it is ISO 5, 6, 7, 8 like that, the number of microorganisms can be much higher. Particles and microorganisms in air, why try to find a correlation? So this is what I said, that it's very easy to know how many microorganisms will be there if you know how much particles are there. And by virtue of trapping non-viable particles, the ones which are no life, viable particles too are trapped, especially by HEPA filters. What do you mean by that? Basically, what happens is viable particles, they don't fly around in the air by themselves. They have to attach to the non-viable particles, which are much bigger than themselves. So by the virtue of the fact that you are trapping the non-viable particles, the viable particles too are going to get trapped by the HEPA filters. That's what it means. Deposition of microorganisms on surfaces. Deposition on 1 meter square surface per hour is estimated as, suppose you've got a horizontal surface in a class 100 room, that is ISO 5, and you've got 1 meter square surface in an ISO 8 room. We are trying to find out in 1 hour how many microorganisms are going to be deposited on a 1 meter square surface. So if it is ISO 5, we are saying that 80 microorganisms will be deposited. And if it is ISO 8, 2000 microorganisms will be deposited. For non-classified rooms, this number is much higher. You can imagine that. So now we come to another concept. What happens during its actual surgery, the deposition of microorganisms on wounds during a surgery. So consider during an operation. Typically, you would find 8-inch by 8-inch wound for, let's say, typically a heart surgery. It is much bigger, in fact. Or if you have got this any orthopedic, you can hear me. The internet seems to be unstable. Can you hear me? Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. During a 6-hour operation, 480 microorganisms can enter this wound in a 8 ISO. You saw that earlier equation. From there only we have derived it. So if it is a ISO 8 room, that is class 1 lakh room, 480 microorganisms can enter into this wound of 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter. 6-hour operation is typically, I told you, a heart surgery or any orthopedic surgery. As against that, if you were to do a class 5 ISO room and see how many microorganisms are going to be deposited, it will be only 20 numbers in a 6-hour operation. So you can see that laminar flow hood, the chance of microorganisms getting deposited on a wound get that much lower. And you go back to that old equation and you know that the chance of infection gets reduced considerably. Now we talk of operation theater gowns. Operating staff shed 10,000 skin scales or squama per minute. Of these, around 10% carry clusters of microorganisms that can potentially cause post-operative infection. The average squama size is 7 to 20 micron. Normal cotton fabrics with pore sizes 80 to 100 micron are ineffective in reducing the bacterial dispersion. A person dressed in a sterile scrub suit, cap and mask sheds 140 to 830 CFU per minute at rest. So you can see that, actually more or less these cotton fabrics have been discarded in all these operation theaters, and you have these polyester scrub suits, being prevalent these days. So now we talk of operation theater with laminar flow, particulate counts and CFU. What the standard says is you've got these basic requirements for air cleanliness in operation theater in at-rest state as per ISO 14644-1 for particulates and Schedule M for microbial counts. So you've got the operation room, that is all the background area, and the operating table. Here, the zone of the operating table, the maximum particulate count is 3520 cubic, 0.5 micron and above per cubic meter of air. That is your class 100. And the zone which is around that, it is 35,200. That is your class 10,000. Sorry, class 1000. And if you see the cleanliness, we are talking of ISO 5. Here we are talking of ISO 6. And the maximum permissible CFU per cubic meter is 5 and 20 respectively on the operating table and the zone around the operating table. So this is what is the aspirational thing that you should try to achieve. It is impossible to dress the patients and operating personnel in clean room clothes, and so it is not possible to certify contamination in operation condition. All that we are talking of is when the operation is not going on. You are just trying to qualify that this operation theater is very clean. But what actually happens during an operation is a different thing altogether that we'll talk of. So just this concept you should understand. Now we talk of types of surgeries. See, not all surgeries are, what shall I say, very rigorous surgeries. You've got class A surgeries, class B surgeries, and class C surgeries. Class A surgeries are, these provide here minor surgical procedures are there performed under topical, local, or regional anesthesia without preoperative sedation. Excluded are intravenous, spinal, and epidural procedures, which are class B or class C surgeries. So these are basically very minor surgeries. So you don't need the same degree of cleanliness for a class A surgery as compared to, say, class C surgery. So when we come to class B surgery, it is here we provide minor or major surgical procedures which are performed in conjunction with oral, parenteral, or intravenous sedation. And class C surgeries are major surgeries, surgical procedures that require general or regional block anesthesia and or support of vital bodily functions. And as per NABH, super specialty operation theater is the concept that is there in NABH. These are operation theaters for neurosciences, orthopedics, that is joint replacement, cardiothoracic, and transplant surgery, renal and liver, etc. So we are talking of the excerpts from what is required as per NABH in terms of temperature, RH, outdoor air, and recirculation air and pressure requirements. This is excerpt from NABH. So for super specialty operation theaters, the operation, as I said, is for neurosciences, etc. The temperature has to be 21 plus minus 3, and RH is to be 20 to 60%. Pressure has to be positive, and outside air, they expect you to have 4 air changes per hour, and recirculation is minimum 20 air changes per hour. And for orthopedic, for joint replacement, the recommendation is for 18 plus minus 3, and RH is given 20 to 60%, and positive pressure, air changes of outside air, and 20 air changes recirculation. And then it goes on to say that for general OT, which means operation theaters for ophthalmology, district hospital OTs, FRU OT, and all that, all you require is 21 plus minus 3, 20 to 60% RH, positive pressure, and 4 outside air, and 20 air changes per hour of recirculation. And when they say positive pressure, it means a minimum of 2.5 pascals compared to the outside. Now, this 2.5 pascals is something which we need to think about. It's a pressure that you can hardly measure on a gauge. So why it is written 2.5 is a matter of conjecture. But if you were to design an operation theater, the minimum that is recommended, for example, in CDC, which is 7.5, which is a little more reasonable. So if you do 7.5, you can at least see it on the gauge properly, and you could be assured that you can also pass the NABH audit. Then typical operating room, just one second. Okay, then there are some specifics for some of the types of operations. Suppose you've got heart operation, it requires low temperature, fast reheat, large room. What does this fast reheat mean? That immediately after the operation, the surgeon will demand that immediately he wants the temperature to go up, and just switching off your, just increasing your thermostat, it's not going to help you. You may have to put heaters, just be aware of that. Then orthopedic, you need low temperature, large room, extra filtration. Cystoscopic, medium temperature, general is medium temperature. Pediatric is high temperature, neurological is low temperature, large room, trauma is high temperature, and burn is high temperature. This is just matter of details. Now we come to filtration. Viruses are 0.01 micron to 0.05 micron. Bacteria are generally from 0.05 micron to 5 micron. Fungal spores and yeast cells 1 micron to over even 100 micron. Pollen grain is 10 micron to 400 micron. Viruses and bacteria normally occur in colonies or on large particles. So microorganisms are easily collected, but microorganisms can multiply and filter, releasing dead or living byproducts. This is something that you have to keep in mind. So one of the interesting things that you need to know is that though viruses are, for example, 0.01 micron to 0.05 micron, the concept of how a HEPA filter works, there is something called MPPS, that's a separate subject. But you can, the point I need to convey is that these viruses, though these HEPA filters are rated, you will see that normal ratings are for 0.3 micron, 99.97% efficiency. It doesn't matter. These also catch the viruses very easily. How it is catching, it's a concept by itself, but all these pathogens can be caught by HEPA filters. So in filtration, we have got, as shown in table, MERV 14 removes, there's a table that I'm showing. It removes 75 to 85% of particles in the range of 0.3 to 1 micron. ASHRAE standard 170 2015 gives efficiencies of filtration together with pre-filters for different areas. This particular standard is very useful. It gives for every thinkable area in a healthcare facility what should be the filtration. So you have to just look at that chart and you'll be quite safe. HEPA filters earlier listed as MERV 17 are often specified for PE rooms, bone marrow and organ transplant, patient rooms and super specialty operation theaters. And this is the MERV rating chart, and this is the HEPA filter rating chart. So this is just as a matter of detail, I'm showing it. Hygienic criteria for filtration in HVAC systems. See, basically it is recommended to use at least 2 stages of filtration. One stage, filter stage should be installed prior to the cooling coil. You know, here, this is the cooling coil. Prior to that is the pre-filter. And then you should have, after the blower, a filter bank 2, that is the fine filter, to avoid contaminants coming from filter blower. I'm on a phone call. I'll give you a call later. To avoid contaminants from the blower section. So this is the way the AHU has to be configured. Then filtration requirements. Minimum filter efficiencies as per standard 170 to 2015. See, as I clarified, you've got all sorts of operations. It's not that everything is a specialty operation. So if it is class B and C surgery, you need MERV 7 and MERV 14 filters. That's good enough. You don't need to put HEPA filters. Laboratories, class A surgery, you need MERV 13 filters. Then it's only in super specialty rooms that ASHRAE recommends the use of terminal HEPA laminar flow plenums. So just be aware of that. So every operation you don't need laminar flow and so on. Filtration for NABH, super specialty, we talked about it. AHU must be an air purification unit and air filtration unit. There must be 2 sets of washable flange type filters of efficiency 90% down to 10 micron and 99% down to 5 micron. And then they say that you should have HEPA filters of efficiency of 99.97% to 0.3 micron. That is what the specialty of operation theater requirement of NABH is. For general OT, the same thing is as in super specialty. When not possible, the operation theaters should be well ventilated with 2 levels. They're not insisting on HEPA filters for the general OT. Then we talk of hygienic criteria for the outdoor air and for the exhaust air. It is recommended to use MERV 13 or better grade of filtration for the outdoor air, because that is where a lot of things can come. Pollen can come. Staphylococcus aureus is one of the main things that comes from pollen in the air. Then we have got the exhaust air. You have to protect the nearby places. The pathogens that you are generating, you don't want it to go to the neighborhood. So you got MERV 10 that is to be put in the exhaust air. This is the recommendation. Now we talk of operation theater types. There we talked about types of operation. We are now talking of operation theater types. The first thing is the operation theater air pattern. The strategy adopted in operation theater air distribution is to sweep the air, sweep away the contaminants released from the wound and from the surgical stream is swept away to the return air risers. You can see this. Let's say that these are the black is the the contaminant. So it has to be swept away. It should not come onto the wound. It has to be swept away. and it has got to go into the risers. That is the whole concept. So now if you see this, this is a diagram which you can try to understand. One sec. This is the air pattern in an OT with laminar flow. Here what you find is particle trace and settle movement of contaminants away from the surgical team. Let me explain this in a little more detail. In this experiment, mannequins are placed in an operation theater with laminar flow unit over the table. There's a laminar flow above the table. You can see that this is the OT light. These are the mannequins who are supposed to replicate the, the healthcare personnel who are there, the surgeons and the nurses and so on. And they are heated to 100 watt, heat, so that they replicate the convection currents of the human beings. The microbes are made to emanate from the face, nose, and all that in this particular experiment. The trace particles you can see, these particles are swept away from the operation table. So this is the whole idea. See, all these particles have to go away and into the risers, so on. So the whole idea is that it's not that you'll stop the microbes from coming. The whole idea is the microbes should not find a place on the operation table. That's the whole idea. So now we have got the type of operation theaters. Yeah. See, this is someone is, yeah, okay. This is called the multi-array diffuser. So you've got a number of these terminal HEPAs out here. And these laminar diffusers are over the operation table, which is somewhere here. And then of course, there are laminar flow return air risers. You can see this kind of a operation theater. So this is called, multi-diffuser array. So just keep that name in your memory. Then we talk of another type, which is air curtain type. It was quite popular in US. I have not seen any in India, to confess to you. But this is something that was professed at one time in US. And this is the operating table out here. And you've got the laminar flow out here. And then you've got a slot type of diffuser out here. So this forms a sort of curtain, and it protects the contaminant air from coming into the clean zone. And you can see the air pattern. So here what is happening is they're trying to do a very energy efficient system by little air quantity and still managing to get a good amount of cleanliness on the operating table. We'll talk about the merits of this. Then we have got OT hood type single laminar flow diffuser SLD 1 and 2. This is something which most of us are familiar with. And so you've got, you've got this laminar flow hood out here. It could be of a size 7 feet by 8 feet. This is just one number. There are many sizes. I've just picked two numbers. One is 7 feet by 8 feet, and the other one is 9 feet 3 by 9 feet 3. You get some operation theaters, for their orthopedic operations or heart, where the number of people who are going to work under the laminar flow might be something like 10. So they can't crowd in a 7 feet by 8 feet area. They sometimes ask for 10 feet by 10 feet. So we are just going to make a comparison of two SLD1 and SLD2 types of laminar flow diffusers. Okay, so we are going to talk about, in comparative terms, what is the, air quantity, and what is the kilowatts that it consumes. And then what is the CFU per meter cube that you can expect inside the, on the OT table. So you air curtain type laminar flow diffuser. This is going to take 570 CFM. It is so low. It consumes only 0.95, the blower, that is, okay. Then you got the multi-diffuser type, which I showed, like just a few HEPA filters just over the over the table. Here we are talking of two conditions, one at 30 FPM and another at 50 FPM. At 30 FPM, we are talking of 1700 CFM, 2.83 kilowatts. 50 FPM, we are talking of 2828 CFM and 4.71 kilowatts. Now we have got the single laminar flow diffuser, that smaller one, that's 7 feet by 8 feet. We are talking of 30 FPM, 1700 CFM, 2.83 kilowatts, and 50 FPM, it is 2828 CFM and 4.71 kilowatt. The kilowatts has gone more. And then the bigger laminar flow diffuser, that is that 8 feet by 8 feet approximately, at 30 FPM, 2580 CFM, 4.8 kilowatts, and 50 FPM, it is 4270 CFM, 7.11 kilowatts. Now, this is all okay, but what is happening to the microbial counts? This is what they find. In your air curtain type, it is 80 plus. In MDA, it is at 30 FPM, it is, you can see that 24 CFU per meter cube, 11 per meter cube, 2 per meter cube, 0, 0, 0. So if you were to conclude this whole story, it's something like this. So you see the various types of operation theaters, how much it consumes. And you'll find that if you see the SLD1 onwards, all these laminar flows meet this requirement of, the standard of 5 CFU and lower. These ones are okay for your general OT and all that, but for super specialty, requiring, operations for, special purposes, like as I told you, heart and orthopedics, here you would definitely have to go for SLD1 right up to SLD2. So that's a point made. Now we come to the characteristics of laminar flow, that is now called unidirectional flow. Airflow in a single direction is what is required through a clean air device or a clean zone with essentially parallel streams, air. Airflow characterized by deviation of not more than 14 degrees from the straight line flow through the work zone. So you can't have a very diffusive flow. It has to be within 14 degrees. Measured using relative standard deviation of air velocity normal to the plane of airflow, RSD, that is the relative standard deviation of less than 15%, only then it can be classified as unidirectional flow. What does this mean? If you take the air velocities across the face of the laminar flow, it cannot differ by more than 15%. So your, the air inlets going into your laminar flow have to be designed properly with proper diffusion. Something plates will have to be there. The reference document is given here, ISO 14644-3. It says the pattern in which the point-to-point readings of velocities are within a defined percentage of the average airflow velocity, plus minus 10%. Then we talk of, okay, return air positions. Sorry. Target air velocities for unidirectional airflow recommended is as per NABH is 25 to 35 FPM. Oh God. Then ASHRAE 2017, it says it should be 25 to 35 FPM. So this is what we are talking of on the laminar flow front. Then return air positions for operating theaters. You can see this photograph. Return air point should be at a level 75 to 150 mm from the floor. You know, this has to be something like 75 to 150 mm from the floor. That is what NABH recommends. At least ideally 4 low level return air points at 4 corners of the operation theater. Additional ceiling return points near the wall is recommended with low exit velocity, which helps in helps to reduce the stratification of air. This is something there. This is done in hardly any operation theaters, but it's a very valid thing. You don't want stagnation of air anywhere. So this is something that is recommended. Now we talk a little bit about the airflow schematics, OT air schematics, normal operation theaters. And just because we are in COVID times, you might be already out of it in Ahmedabad, I'm not too sure, but in Maharashtra, we are very much there. So in COVID times, what they do in the operation theater. So if you see this for normal operation theater, we talked about MOV 7 and then MOV 14, you've got this recirculatory air handling unit, you've got the MOV 13 fresh air, then this goes into the supply LAF plenum, and then you've got the return air that gets collected at the low level, and then it goes back into the AHU. Now this is something which I've shown in terms of fogging and defogging arrangement. It is almost very few very few hospitals observe it, but there are hospitals, quite a few, who are still observing it. That's why I showed this. So at the end of the day, after several operations, they would like to fog the operation theaters and keep it very clean from microbial point of view, so that the next day you start all over again. So you have to have this fogging and defogging arrangement, which works on timers. And you can see that this area is under positive pressure. Then they've got the airlock, which is under less positive, and then it goes into the outside general area. But when the same thing is to be done for COVID times, then what we want is that this air from the operation theater should not go into the outside general area. So what we have to have is that the airlock has to be under negative pressure. So air moves from the operation theater into the airlock. Similarly, the outside general area, the air moves into the airlock, and this is through a HEPA exhaust. This is what is the recommendation. So this is for the COVID times. Now we come to the last topic that I'm going to touch on, that is your maintenance issues with operation theaters. So we are going to talk about maintenance issues related to cleaning of AHU ducts and filter, and then maintenance issues related to HEPA filters. So we are going to talk of why we have to clean the ducts. If you have had the chance to see any duct inside, not only in healthcare facility, in even your commercial facilities and all that, you'll find that these ducts are, where there is a residence of all this dust and fungus. Same is the case with, operation theaters and other healthcare places. And we are talking of, super clean areas down there, and the duct itself can be, quite contaminated. So it is a good practice to have this duct cleaning, which ensures that the ducts are cleaned of dust and the fungus. Filter installation is something which is also an issue. you can see this, that, you've got a filter, you've gone by the book, you put all the mode ratings as required, but then there is a big gap between the filter and the frame, and all that air is bypassing. And you can see that, the filter has choked so much that the fan pressure has actually sucked this filter into it, and air is bypassing. So these are issues that are not very uncommon in hospitals as in other installations. In hospitals, they can be very dangerous. Choked condensate drain pans which do not drain. This is something that you will see. You can see this. This is an actual photo in one of the unfortunate hospitals that I saw. So you've got an operation theater, and this is the state of the. We are talking of CFU counts inside the area, and this is the state of the operation theater AHU. Then you've got the fresh air duct, and you've got, if you think that this is all cooked up, you'll find a newspaper item where one of the hospitals, that was KEM Hospital orthopedic area, they had to close the OT for orthopedic operations for 3 days because they found that this there was dead pigeon in the fresh air duct, and that smell coming. They went and did some investigation, and this is what they found. So it is not that it happened just overnight. I mean, this must have been going on for quite a few days, and it was then realized that there is a dead pigeon out there, and it is not a one-off thing. This happens all the time. Then the other issue is regarding the laminar flow. These are the plenum filters. You can see that this is damaged. So you may ask, how does it really affect? Suppose there is a pinhole in this filter, and rest of the filter is quite okay. Does it really affect? No, you just try to imagine that, let us say that there is a pinhole. It really acts like, the simile that I've got is a AK-47 pistol. So what happens is all the pathogens, they come out of that hole, like a, shot after shot. And it goes, especially you've got now a laminar flow, the flow is straight. So if you've got, by mischance, a surgical site which is just below, then, these pathogens will actually be shot into that particular zone. And the chance of surgical site operation infection is that much more. So it is not just about the pinhole, even the installation all around, that you have to ensure that laminar flow is intact, and it has to be tested from time to time visually, and also with DOP and PAO test that is called. So these are the issues. Then you've got issues related to laminar flow hood. You can see that, there is another popular thing. Instead of that perforated sheet, some of the operation theaters have a synthetic diffuser. So what happens with these synthetic diffusers is that there is a chance of your static charge buildup, and that static charge buildup can affect in many ways. And in terms of dust getting adhered to it and all that. So that's not something that you would want. And then there is this surgical chute which is there. You can see that the OT light pendant has come down, and there is an air leakage. So again, we are talking of very clean air, and then contaminated air is coming out from here. So these are issues that are involved, and these need to be checked from time to time. So with this, I come to the end of my presentation on all the points that I had to make in this. So with that, a big thank you. Over to you, the host.
Thank you very much, sir, for touching a topic which I always love to hear about this topic much and as much time I can. Because OT is such an area where we always believe that human beings are getting a second life. And we, being HVC engineers, play a very vital role making doctors successful for their aim, what they are looking for. So we are fortunate enough as HVC engineers that we are getting this noble, we can contribute towards this noble cause. And like expert like you makes the entire industries strengthen by giving your technical knowledge. So thank you very much, sir, for such a wonderful sessions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So, are there any questions or do we close? I don't see any questions on the screen.
चैट बॉक्स में एक क्वेश्चन है जिग्नेश गोयल सर का.
No, there are no questions.
Actually, I saw before that one, that only.
Oh, okay. There is one question here. It will take CH in HLC might be times. I could not get this question. Hello.
Hello. Yes, sir.
There seems to be a question, but I couldn't understand the question, unfortunately. It is saying that it is from Mr. Jignesh Gohel.
Jignesh Gohel.
It's in that.
I think he is not there right now because Jignesh Gohel is, I'm not able to see him into attendee.
Chat box. It's okay. So,
do we have there is one question here. What should be the clear height between OT table top to laminar hood bottom?
See, basically, it's essentially a very good question because see, it goes by the convenience for the light. The light boom, it should not interfere with the operation. Okay, so the recommendation actually is that from the floor you should get 3 meters total, and the OT table is something like a little over a meter. So the distance becomes almost 2 meters between the laminar flow. But you rarely come across a laminar flow which is so high above. And in my so many years, it might be only one occasion that I had to install at 3 meters height, but mostly it is something like 2.7 meters. And then you've got the operation table at a little over 1 meter. So you can expect 1.7 meter is the normal height between the laminar flow and the operating table. Hello. Nice to meet you. Nice to see you, Rajan.
I really could not resist to come to you, sir. आपको सुनना हमेशा से एक treat होता है, and
it's a pleasure for me to see you also.
Who all ever has participated and gone through this are blessed. My entire office is attending from the word goes. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah. All is well in Ahmedabad or what is it?
Yes,
sir. Going on well और थोड़ा ऐसा ऊपर नीचे चलता रहता है. हमारे यहाँ CFU बहुत है ना.
Maharashtra is overwhelmed with CFUs. Anyway, but there is no fear now. You know, fear is gone.
Yeah, now everybody has most of people have seen the coming and going of the part of the COVID.
Yeah.
Quite relaxed now.
True, true.
And that's what the worry is, sir, actually. People are more than relaxed now.
But after government has, government has ensured that people are paying fines out here, and overnight we are finding that 95% are wearing, on the roads, this mask and all that. Earlier, no one was really wearing, but now it isn't people actually wearing. So that is something that is good to see. They're collecting 1,000 rupees from all people,
Yeah. They are collecting crores.
Anyway, so good.
So wonderful to hear you, sir. We will look forward to have you more from you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you again, sir.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, sir.
Yeah.